blessings, blessings. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Lisa Meggs, for the invitation. I'm so excited. This is my first time publicly speaking since the pandemic began, so I am beyond thrilled. And Sister Wendy, we go back to the 80s. Can I just slap you, girl? Yeah, yes, you are the bomb. God knew not to give me your gift. What an amazing gift. All of the wonderful musicians, thank you so much for the musical atmosphere and raising the vibration so that we can be settled and in the moment and leave everything outdoors and just come into the presence of God. And I thank you for ushering in that energy. We have all of God in us, up and down, north and south, east and west, cold and hot, male and female, day and night, joy and pain, sunshine and rain. I want to talk about you today. Can I do that? Can I talk about you? I want to talk about you. Because we are spiritual beings, having a human experience, in God's infinite wisdom, God knew that we would have troubles. Knew that we would go through many trials and tribulations. Knew that we would sometimes question and doubt who we are and where are we and what's going on. And so I want to take you on a little journey today because this is Mental Health Month. And we are a mind, a body, and a spirit. And I love the teachings here because we don't just talk about our spirituality, we talk about the whole person. We talk about the mind. We talk about the body and the wellness. And there's a scripture that I love that is really a basis for really all that I do with my Women on the Grow ministry. And it's in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. And it says, two people, somebody say two people. Two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. And you know what? It says if one person fails, the other can reach out and help. It goes on to say, but someone who falls alone is in real trouble. It goes on to say, likewise, two people, somebody say two people. Two people close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? Somebody say alone. A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. So as spiritual beings, you and I are fat. Fat is the way I remember how we are. We have a holy trinity. We have feelings, we have actions, and we have thoughts. And whenever our feelings, which is our female nature of the divine, whenever our feelings or our actions or our thoughts are off-centered, not healthy, distorted, dysfunctional, out of balance, there's something going on in our mental health. And we, as Ecclesiastes says, we are wired to connect with one another. We're supposed to be together. We're supposed to have good company. We're supposed to have people that know us. We're supposed to be able to pick up the phone and somebody say, I'm so glad to hear your voice. We're supposed to be able to have someone to come to us when we are in need of comfort, support, networking. We need each other. And what is happening is that loneliness is an epidemic. And what has happened with the pandemic has heightened an epidemic that was already happening of people feeling lonely. For some churches, that's a dirty word. Oh, don't talk about mental health. Don't talk about people are depressed. Don't talk about people. Where is your faith? Well, just pray. How many of you know that's just not enough? When you are lonely, when you are depressed, when nobody calls you, nobody knows your name, as Wendy talked about. How many of you know that's just not enough? And there is an epidemic that is happening. And I dare to go there today. Because my 30 plus years of studying 5 things, don't have a degree in none of them, but I read them like I eat it up like candy. I study neurology, which is how this brain works. I study biology, how we take care of the body, what we put in the body, what we eat, what we drink, how much sunshine we get. I study spirituality to understand my connection to God, to the divine. I need to understand this mystery. I study sociology, which means the community. What's happening to our society? We are being pulled apart. We are scared of one another. We're not trusting one another. We're not checking up on one another. We're not taking care of the elders. We don't want to tell the little children, shut up and sit down, be quiet. We don't know how to deal with society. We're staying in the house. We're working from the house. We're staring at screens all day. That's our sociology. And then I study psychology. That's the only A I got in Compton High School was psychology. And all 5 of those schools of thought have always intrigued me and have led me to do the work that I do, because loneliness is an epidemic. We're Zooming. We're working from home. We're watching Netflix. You got telemedicine. You can't even be in the presence of a doctor. They tell you to take Prozac instead of just be around people that make you laugh and want to be around you, know your name. Society has demonized people who are depressed. I've been depressed. Anybody been depressed? You know, there was a time when you said you were depressed. What's the matter with you? You okay? Well, where's your faith? Come on, just go to church. Come on. Have a drink. Take some pills. Have a glass of wine. Go on a cruise. And you go on a cruise and you're taking all the problems with you. Because nobody gave you the skills to navigate it. And nobody gave you permission to express what you're feeling. See, when you suppress what you feel and you can't express what you feel, you have depressed. Shun. Because I don't have permission to say I'm sad. I don't have permission to say I've lost my job. I don't have permission to say I miss mama. I don't have permission to say I'm going through a divorce. I don't have permission to say these kids are driving me crazy. I don't have permission to say I hate my job, because somebody's going to say, well, you should just be grateful you have a job. But your job is depressing you. When you don't express, you suppress. And when you suppress, you become depressed. Your feelings, your actions, and your thoughts are connected. I try very carefully not to tell people, just get over it. I try very carefully not to tell people, where's your faith? I try to create a non-judgment zone. In scriptures, Matthew 7, it says, do not judge or you will be judged. How often do we judge people? They just this and they just that and they just, why don't they just get over it? Do you know how many people are depressed that are smiling? Do you know how many people have, they don't wear makeup, they wear fake up. Do you know how many people are living with shame, especially in this social media season? I try very hard not to go too deep into it because I'll start saying, well, how come I didn't sell that many books? And how come I'm not that skinny? And how come my husband don't treat me like that? And how come my kids don't act like that? And how come I want to go there? And how come it's crazy what is happening to us mentally if we're not aware. And so the Bible says, guard your heart. The heart is the feminine part of us that holds our emotions. The masculine is the thoughts, that director. But your emotions are in your heart. And many of us hold on to things from 1970. Many of us have not healed from childhood drama. And your heart is still heavy. You have not been able to forgive. You have not been able to move on. And nobody knows you are depressed. Nobody knows you hate Monday morning. Nobody hates that you can't stand to open up your mail. Nobody knows you don't want to answer the phone. Nobody knows you have anxiety, that you wanted to be here this morning, but you had anxiety about traffic. You had anxiety about crowds. You had anxiety. What do I look like? What should I wear? You have anxiety. When I was in South Africa, and they said, and there was a time in Africa, there was no name for stressed or depressed. People just kept going. They just kept pushing forward. But now we are a society. We talk about stress and depressed because we don't have the tools and we don't feel comfortable expressing, I'm sad, I'm hurt. You're my amen corner. That's okay, honey. And so in my studies, I'm understanding how important it is because I do one-on-one coaching, I do one-on-one counseling, how important it is not to make people feel like they're broken, like there's something wrong with you. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And in the human experience, folks gonna hurt you, disappoint you, betray you, let you down, trick you, trap you, manipulate you. And so we must always learn how to guard our hearts. If not, you will be, you know what I tell people? Sometimes the scariest place to live, my zip code is 91737, but the scariest place for me to live, Wendy, sometimes is right here. Because of my feelings, my actions, and my thoughts. I'm fat. And I have to learn how to deal with my feelings, how I act, and what I think. And when we start guarding what we're thinking, we say, oh, I gotta stop feeling like everything is hopeless and meaningless and pointless. It's a scary place to get. And there are many people that get there when they are not connected, to a tribe. These ladies here are part of my tribe. Thank you, ladies. Raise your hand. Thank you for showing up today. They're part of my tribe. And there's a lot more of them, but I always call them my tribe because I'm very much aware of this concept of us being tribal, which means we are a community, which means we care about one another, which means we show up for one another. And so a lot of people were disconnected from their divine community, their church, their job. All of a sudden they had to be at home with the dog and the kids. And they were, even though they didn't like their job, but they lost their tribe. You see, bees thrive because of the hive. Okay. And humans thrive because you belong to a tribe. That's right. And there are a lot of people very comfortable being alone, but you see, with the pandemic, it punctuated people that were already alone. It punctuated people that said, I don't need nobody, but they're saying that because they were hurt. Yeah. But they began to believe it was okay to be alone. It is not healthy for your mental health to be disconnected from your, okay, come on, somebody. Who's watching This Is Us? Who's watching This Is Us? Who's watching, anybody watch This Is Us? Okay. Well, okay, let me just tell you real quickly. This is us as an amazing journey series of a family. And the essence is that no matter what they went through, they were always connected to their tribe. And they went through so much. But what I loved about this series is that when it got down to the real nitty gritty, it was the siblings, it was the tribe that came together to make decisions. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? And many of us are not connected to a tribe. You're figuring this thing out all by yourself. Can you imagine being in the savannas of Africa and your tribe has left you? You know how scary that would be? How the lions, tigers, and bears, they're like, wait a minute, young lady. Because we're more protected and connected when we have a tribe. I'm old school, I'm 70 plus, so I remember watching a show called Wagon Train. Y'all are youngins. You guys are youngins, so you don't know nothing about no wagon train. But I remember a show called Wagon Train. And honey, if the wagon train left you, you ain't gonna survive. The engines are gonna get you. Those were metaphors of the importance of us being connected. That once you leave your tribe, the enemy has access to you. And your mentality begins to think, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I can't make it, I'm broke, nobody loves me, I can't get a job, I can't, because the enemy has access, because there's no one around you to say, I love you, I see you, I'm proud of you. I have a loved one that's going through something right now, and all I do is say, I'm proud of you, I love you. I'm just speaking life, I'm just speaking life, I'm just speaking life, I'm just speaking life. Because I know that if they don't hear, and if you look at the word heart, in the word heart is the word ear. You've got to hear, I love you. You've got to hear, you're amazing. You got to hear, I see you. You got to hear, you make a difference. You got to hear it. If you don't hear it, the tribe has left you, and now you're left to your own imagination. The Bible talks about that. I cannot imagine what it would be like to be left in the savannas of Africa away from my tribe. I can't imagine a few years ago when my son got his wings. If it wasn't for my tribe, I'd be sitting here with this wig on backwards and a red shoe and a blue shoe. Let me tell you, because grief is no joke. And I don't know, I would not have made it if it wasn't for my tribe. Because grief is real. But how many people have grief and there's nobody to call them? There's nobody to say how you doing. You know, after you had the chicken and the potato salad, people leave and they don't know you still got pain. You still got hurt. And there's nobody checking on you. But this is what a tribe is supposed to do. And what our society has done, which is making the mental health epidemic so terrible, is that instead of social prescriptions, we are given medical prescriptions. Do you know that that after 1997, up until that point, you could not advertise pharmaceuticals? Really? You find it on the commuter train, in the magazines, on the YouTube. After 1997, they were given permission to promote to the consumer, not the doctor. Because once the consumer says, well, doctor, I heard that thing is going to heal me. Doctor, I want it. The doctor, yeah, here you go. How much you want? Because they're not trained to deal with depression. They're not trained to deal with grief. And I'm not knocking the medical industry, because if I break my leg, please take me to the doctor. But if I'm sad, call me. Let me go to the ocean Let me put on some colors. Let me buy myself some flowers. Let me help somebody. Let me go out and help somebody. Because when you volunteer, that's a social prescription. Because depression is focusing on me. And if I find myself to the point, all I can think about what happened to me, and I don't like this. Here's a prescription. Do something for somebody else. Help somebody. That is what shepherding and discipling, evangelism, all these fancy words, they're just words that say, reach out, talk, share, pray, help, lift somebody. We all have psychological needs. And when our psychological needs are not met, our mental health suffers. We need shelter, we need food, we need basic things. And when none of those things are met, my team and I were out a couple of weeks ago on Skid Row, giving out clothes and underwear and water and socks to the unhoused, because we were taught, do not say homeless, they are unhoused, because their tent that you see out there, that box, that's their home. Do you know how good we felt when we left there? We were on a high, because those hours we were there, we weren't thinking about our little sweating the small stuff. We were able to see a contrast. We were able to say, oh, I know what grace is now, because if it had not been for the Lord on my side, where would I be? So we all need to feel like we belong somewhere. We all need to feel like somebody knows our name. Isn't that what Cheers was all about? Yes. The theme song, where everybody goes, everybody knows your name. Because I'm telling you, my brothers and sisters, when you've lost meaning, when you've retired and you don't know what to do with your days, when you've moved away from family and friends and nobody's checking on you, when you've lost hope for your future, which the media wants you to lose hope. The media wants you to focus on the pain, the fear, the disease, the corruption. They want you to focus on that, because then you lose hope. And when you lose hope for your future, you lose your connection to God. You stop dreaming. You stop believing. You stop thinking that it could get better than this. You don't want to become so numb that you stop taking control of your life and dreaming and thinking and planning. Because people who are depressed and have severe mental illness, they just live for the moment and that's it. They don't think beyond that. They've lost hope. They've lost connection. I remember ministering to a woman who would say every Sunday, Joe, please pray for my son. He's living out on the streets, and I know where he is. He's under a bridge, and every once in a while I go check on him, and he says, Mama, I'm not ready to come home. And then a couple of years later, she called me. She said, Jewel, my son is back home. And what a wonderful story that there is hope, that those that are lost can be redeemed. Those that are lost can find their way. But who knows that maybe that love from that mother that didn't give up, somebody knew his name, didn't give up on him. I'm going to be doing something very soon called Black Men Matter, because the teaching that I do is pouring into so many women that we're outgrowing the men. And we want men to know you matter. We want men not to be ashamed of being depressed. I think men have menopause too. Right. And they got to be all tough. I'm all right. I'm good. And then you wonder why he's speeding, why he's mad, why he's full of rage, why he's drinking, why he's just sleeping on the couch. What's wrong with you? Nothing. He's mentally ill. He ain't there. Men get traumatized too. That's why I don't know how much of you are with the news, but they're blowing up this issue with Johnny Depp and how he is talking about his abuse from his wife and all the things he's been through. And someone said, well, at least he's putting a light on the fact that men get abused too, that men get depressed too, that men need to be able to process what happened to them in their childhood. I've heard some horrible things that have happened to men, but they told me in private because there's a shame attached. There's a shame attached to feeling depressed, not feeling whole, not wanting to get up, not being able to communicate, not being able to express, so I become depressed. Not having the vocabulary or the tools that you all give here at this church on how to navigate this thing called life. We need tools. That's why when I leave here today, I'll be online at 3:00. Every Sunday, I'm committed to it. Every Sunday, I'm teaching my university because we need tools. We need to feel connected. I had a loved one who lost a father in one day, and 3 or 4 days later, she lost her mother in 1 week. And people are like, well, is she over yet? Really? Really? Well, at least they're in a good place. How you know? See, we brush people off because we don't like to be uncomfortable when people are uncomfortable. But if you allow people to be uncomfortable, you're sitting with, that's communion. That's communion. Sit. You don't have to have the answer. I learned I don't have to fix everything. I don't know all the answers. I just want to have communion with you and sit with you as you go through this loss, this anger, this rage, this loneliness. Because once somebody acknowledges it, they're like, oh, somebody sees me. They're hearing me. They're listening to me. We had a sister in our tribe who moved away from her family. She's way back east. And she says, Joe, I have to have my breast removed. And I love to dress. I think I'm cute. I think I'm fine. And I just don't want to go through this. But our tribe had her back. And we're like, girl, you back on Zoom already? She said, yes, I miss you guys. See, community is important. And what we are suffering is a loss of community. I don't live in this area any longer, but when I come here, I just see things that are gone that used to be there and all these new buildings. And it's like, oh my God, our community, the familiarity, the home. So what I want to say to you is get a tribe. Find your tribe, love your tribe hard. And what you want to do is do things with your tribe and for your tribe. Yes. Whether it's your family or your church or your sorority or your bowling team or whatever, you should do things with and for them. It's not about you just taking and taking. It's about you doing things with them, feeling involved, getting engaged, getting your hands busy, having something on the calendar. Stop saying no to invitations. I'm talking about myself. I get invited to things and I'm like, okay, I don't really want to go. And I have to fight the feeling. It's like, Jewel, come on, let's go. And I'm always glad once I go because I know I need that social engagement. And when people are used to being lonely, they get used to being lonely. They get used to being alone. 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 And they get used to being alone. And they get used to being alone. And they don't want nobody disturbing their peace. And they don't understand it's going to affect your mental health. We need to be connected. I used to belong to a mega church and I felt lost. Like, really? This is church? He don't know my name. God knows my name, but he don't know my name. I like community. I like feeling connected. And every time I come here, I look in your faces and I feel connected. I feel seen. That's not vanity. That's my mental health. You hear what I'm saying? Look around and wave at somebody. Say, hey, I see you. I see you. I've been invited on many occasions to speak for people in drug and alcohol recovery. I don't know why, because shoes are my only addiction. But for some reason, the Spirit had me speaking many times for people in drug and alcohol recovery. So I had to do my homework. I had to figure out what do I tell them? And I realized that most addiction comes from people who are not seen. Their psychological needs have not been met. Nobody listened to them. Nobody saw them. Nobody cared about them. And they numbed themselves because their reality was too hard to bear. The reality is too hard to bear. My mama crazy. My daddy don't love me. People feeling up on me and touching me when I shouldn't be touched like that. Struggling for food in the house. Unpredictable. I don't know if they're going to come home mad today, screaming today. I don't know if they're going to try to kill me. I've had so many women talk to me about how their parents tried to kill them. And it wasn't that their parents didn't love them. Their parents were mentally ill. Their psychological needs were not met. I talk to some people say, my mama don't hug me. She don't love me. And what that does to a person's mental health says, is there something wrong with me? Am I broken? Am I ugly? Am I stupid? How come you don't love me? And so you become fat. Yes. Your feelings, yes, the way you act and the way you think gets distorted because you were traumatized as a child. And there's different degrees on the spectrum of trauma. When my sister and I talk about our childhood, and then we compare those to other people, like, oh, girl, our trauma wasn't that bad. But it was our flavor of trauma, right, Joy? We were still traumatized, okay? I'm not going to compare my trauma to your trauma. I'm not going to compare my divorce to your divorce. That's what we do when we're mentally out of, we're comparing. Your pain is your pain, boo. It's your pain. It's your loss. It's your history. It's your biology. It's your biography. And your biography and your backstory determines your biology. You want me to stop this time up? Okay. So in studying addiction, I read about Dr. Bruce Alexander. In the 1970s, he did an experiment and he had a rat put into a cage, and one little tube had heroin in it, and the other one had water. And this rat, every day, he was just, which one do you think he was reading? Heroin, right? So he said, oh, let me do something else. He got another cage and he got a whole bunch of rats. And he had balls in there to play. He had male and female rats, so they could have all the sex they want. Ooh, did you know that was good for your mental health? Anyway, so the rats had all these balls, and they had things to play with, and they had the same syringe bottles. Do you know what? They didn't want the heroin. You know what? They had community. They had something to do. They had something to do. The mind needs something to do. You need activity, or you're going to get fat. Your feelings of loneliness, you will behave and act strange. Your thinking will be distorted. Nobody loves me. Nobody calls me. Nobody checks on me. So I thought that was very fascinating. And then I learned about how many countries are understanding how intergenerational programs are important. In Seattle, 5 days a week, the residents there have up to 125 children from 0 to 5. And these children are there with the elderly. I just dropped off my little 5-year-old Cody. Can you tell how tired I am? But when I'm with him, I'm energized, and his imagination, and he talks, and he needs me. Grandma. I can't just lay around. Grandma. I'm hungry. Grandma. And I'm like, oh my God. But it's the best thing for my mental health. And so there are many countries and elderly care homes that are combining the very young with the very old. They feel needed. Yes. They feel loved. My prayer is when I get to be so elderly that I can't take care of myself, that nobody forgives me. But there are a lot of people who are forgotten.
So they become susceptible to Alzheimer and dementia and drugged up. You see, depression, yes, it does have some genetic basis for some people. They're more predisposed because it was in the family. But most of all, depression is a social disease because we are living in our big houses. Put down the garage, close the windows, lock the door. Do not come over unless, I didn't know you were coming over. You didn't tell me you was coming over. We're not trusting. We're not open. We're not visiting. We're not checking on one another. In Van Nuys, they have an organization called One Generation, where the older adults do watercolor with the toddlers. And they're teaching preschoolers Spanish and Mandarin. Do you know that when you learn something new, your brain creates new neural paths? You are fearfully and wonderfully made. But if you don't activate your brain, if you don't learn something new, if you don't get out of your comfort zone, the brain begins to shrink and die. It needs stimulation. Do something different. Wear something different. Go someplace different. Eat something different. Travel someplace different. Move the furniture in your house different. Do something different. Stop hanging around the same old people if all they do is bring you down. That's not good for your mental health. When we leave each other, we like, how many times are we gonna say goodbye? We take about an hour to say goodbye. Because that natural high of being in the presence of other people that love you and see you and know your name, it is medicine. And you feel seen and you feel loved. You feel, hey, I belong here. It's important. In New York, there's a Jewish home, and they have graduating seniors spending time with the elders, and the elders are teaching them things. In Denmark, they started a human library, and I'm gonna work on doing it here. They have a human library. You go to the library, and people volunteer to tell their story. And so you sit. Instead of checking out a book, let me check you out. Okay, now tell me your story. Then I'm gonna tell you my story. You have people that are gay, you have people that have been raped, you have people in the military, you have people that are sex trafficking, you have people that are corporate CEOs, you got people that are authors, you got people that are parents, you got people that are adopted, and they come and they tell their stories. This is why I went to Norway to talk about race reconciliation, because the reason we separate is because we think we're better than somebody else, or somebody has more than the other. When we understand the importance of understanding your story, everybody's story is different. I'm a story gatherer. I love hearing stories. I think that's why I'm so good at what I do as a counselor, because I listen. Like, really, what? I could tell you so many stories. And every time I hear the stories, Patsy, I'm like, man, we are some resilient people. Every time I hear, some people rise and they're resilient, and some people are a victim all their lives. Some of you need to have pets. Something that you have to take care of. I have to take care of my plants. I have plants. I water them. I talk to them. I was so sad the other day because Yetta, you gave me a beautiful one of my little plants. She's not. I'm like, girl, come on, what's the matter? And I talk to my plants. I'm a talker. Did you notice that? I'm a talker. So in my closing, let me share with you 4 things that are important for your mental health. Because I came to talk about you. I came to talk about you. And I want to give you things you can do for social prescriptions instead of always having a medical prescription. Drugs have their place, but I'm here to tell you, beware. Side effects. Beware. Addicted. Beware, it's a shortcut. Beware that the answer is in nature. Yes. The nature is in your relationship to God. Yes. The answer is in you becoming part of a tribe. Yes. The answer is in you finding meaning. You have to have meaning to get up tomorrow morning. Plan ahead. Plan ahead. Say yes to invitation. Say yes to doing something different. I remember speaking in Jamaica, and every year I would speak there. The host would have different activities for us. And we'd have a chef one day, we'd have somebody teaching yoga another day, we'd have makeup another day. And there was always a day when they would say, we're going to Dunn's River, we're going to get in the wrap. I'm not Jill Diamond Taylor. I am not sporty. I don't like to get my hair wet. I don't want to get my knees scratched up. Nope, I'm not just that. I'm not athletic. I'm not getting in a raft. I'm not gonna, nope. And that year, my assignment was to teach about courage. So the Holy Ghost winked at me and said, really, dude? Okay, God. So I get in the van and we go down, and I look down like, I gotta go down there. Oh, my knees, my hair, oh God. Come on, girl, and give me your hand. Well, that was enough right there, fine brother. I'm coming on down. So I get on down and I get there and I see that the rafts are individual. I'm thinking I'm gonna get in this big raft with a whole bunch of people. I'm getting in a solo like a tire. And it's too late to punk out now. Girl, they just take this stick, and when you get close to the rocks, girl, they just push it away. I get in the raft, and all of a sudden there was a shift. And I'm floating down the river, and I'm looking up, and I see a canopy of trees, and the sun gleaming through, and I hear the birds, and I hear people laughing, and I see somebody, hey, you. And they're passing me by, and they're behind me, and some stay beside me. We talk a little bit, then they go on, and I push the stick against the rocks, and I said, okay, God, you just gave me another lesson. This thing, you're going to do it by yourself. You're going to be in a raft all by yourself, and you're going to need a stick when you come up against the rocks. And people are going to come, and people are going to go. And some people will be beside you for a while and chat with you, but you got to figure this thing out. And Joel, how you miss the presence of God. You miss the beauty of God. You miss the nature. You miss the fun because you were scared. So it's a great lesson. And so the 4 amazing secrets I want to give you to break strongholds of depression in your family or in yourself, because guess what? You're not going to be able to help everybody in your family, but you can help yourself. Meaning, if you don't have something to wake up for, find meaning and purpose in your life, whether it's helping other people, getting rid of clutter in your house, writing a book, traveling, helping this broken world, get some meaning. I promise you, the depression won't have a stronghold. The second thing, I've said it, find your tribe and love your tribe hard. Tribe, I love you guys. Thank you so much for showing up today. They came at the last minute, and many of them wanted to be here, but it just does my heart well to know that you guys honor me that way, to come out, tribe is important. If this is your church, love it hard. Yes. Show up. Show up for each other. Life is so precious. It's very precious. Support and love the leadership here. Show up for her. She may be smiling with her. You don't know what she's dealing with. One day, she's beautiful, but you wear makeup sometimes. Yeah, she wears makeup just like me sometimes. Because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. The third thing is nature. Get outside. We live in California. You mean to tell me you haven't been to the beach because it's too far, the gas is too high? I don't care. Do you know what it's like to go to the lake, to the river, to the park, to the ocean, to touch a tree, stand in the grass in your backyard, but get outside and get some sun rays. Touch God. Get outside. There's so many people I know that are what they call landlocked in Atlanta and different places that they'd never even see the water. That's my therapy room when I go to the ocean. And I recalibrate my spirit when I'm there. Like I'm reminded of the infinite possibilities that God says in and out, in and out. The consistency of God, the beauty of God, that ocean can be raging, it could be calm, it could be blue, it could be clean, but it is life. And that always calibrates me. The fresh air, the breeze, the sand in my feet grounds me. Many of you are not grounded because you're walking on concrete, you're living in air conditioning, you're not being exposed to nature. We're supposed to be outside. We're supposed to put our hands in the dirt, gardening. That's right. A pet. Open up your windows. The last thing is God. In my first book I wrote in 1985, I said, if you feel far from God, guess who moved? So, Jewel, how do you get close to God? Praise and worship and music and serving one another, studying the word, not just one book, study as much as you can. Open up your mind to other teachings and get what you can. I always say, eat the fish and spit out the bones. I read as much as I can about people, because if we had a library, a human library, we would understand that other people have other religions. We don't judge them. You realize other people have other values. You don't judge them. You learn from that. You learn from that single mother. You learn from that gay person. You learn from that person who was adopted. You learn from that person who's retired. You learn from that person that's unhoused. You learn, and it expands your mind. So I want to read to you as I close the thing that I read when I need to get close to God and I'm having some anxiety, or I'm questioning how long is this going to take, God? Or I'm just wondering about the mystery of God. How does this thing work, God? Where are you, God? I need you, God. What's happening, God? I go to the 23rd Psalm. And this is my interpretation. The Lord is my shepherd, which means I have a relationship. How can I say my if I don't have a relationship? I shall not want. That's because I believe there's an infinite supply. I shall not want anything I need. God's going to supply it. That's my affirmation. That is my stance. That is my faith. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. You know why? Because some of y'all need some rest. And I'm not talking about sleep. I'm talking about rest. One of my favorite authors says that when you say depressed, it sounds like deep rest. That sometimes we are depressed because we really need to rest our mind, rest our thoughts, rest our heart from worry and grief. You need deep rest. That's why this says, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. That means it's fertile. That means it's nature. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Just talked about that. To me, that's my refreshment. We need to drink water. We're 80% water. See, I learned that from my biology study. So I'm studying all of these teachings and putting them all together to analyze the scripture. He leadeth me beside the still water, not raging waters, but it's still, it's calm. He restoreth my soul. That means there's a healing available to you. That's right. God can restore your soul. He leadeth me in the paths of what? Righteousness. That means that if I'm still, I can be guided. But when I'm all over the place and I'm all over the place in my mind, I don't know which way to go. But if I'm still and I'm refreshed, God will wink at you. God will whisper to you. God will put somebody on your path. You'll see something on the television. You'll hear something. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what I need to do. Anybody with me? Yeah. For his name's sake, that means it's a purpose higher than what your earthly experience. It's a purpose higher than Jewel Diamond Taylor. My purpose of serving, my purpose of expanding, my purpose of showing up. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. That means I am protected, boo. I am protected because I will be walking through some valleys. Why do we think we're immune? Oh, I'm a good person. I tithe. I study. I help. Honey, you're a spiritual being having a human experience, and you better be prayed up. You better guard your heart. You better put your shield of faith on. You better get your word right. You better get your feet right. You better get your relationships right, because when you have to walk through that valley, you're going to say, yeah, I'm there, but I'm protected. I'm good. For thou art what? With me. That's blessed assurance. For thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. The rod and the staff were, little Cody this weekend, he's expressing himself now. And he needs a little rod and a little staff. I remember when Della Reese came to one of our meetings and she said, don't nobody care about your little baby shoes. You better figure out that the world don't care. You better act right. You better act right. But see, when you are connected to God, you know that God will comfort you, but it's with a rod and a staff. That means there'll be some correction. Don't do that. Don't go over there. Don't say that. Don't eat that. That's what the rod and the staff is, to comfort you. To the female essence of God is to nurture us. So I'm a nurturer with Kodia. Come on, Grandma, love you. Come on, get a hug. And then sometimes I'm like, did you hear what I said? Don't do that. Don't say that. Watch your mouth. God is saying that to some of y'all. Did you hear what I said? Yeah. Don't do that. That's the rod and the staff. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. That's some hope right there. I got hope that, even though it's going on, somebody's going to say, girl, look at you. Yeah, look at God. Thou anointest my head with oil. That's consecration. It's always the head because that's where we think. This is the third eye. So you don't anoint people on their ankles. You don't anoint them on their knees. You don't anoint them on their elbows. Any sacred teachings you study is going to say you are anointed on the head because of your thinking. Your facts. You've got to watch out for your feelings, your actions, and your thinking. So Lord, because you've anointed me, I am consecrated. My cup just runneth over. That means I live in abundance. I speak it. Something came up the other day and I was like, no, they didn't take that money out of my account. And I said, okay, I got it. So I have some more is coming. I speak life over myself. I live in abundance. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. What a blessing. To bless yourself with this, for I will dwell in the house of the Lord. That's security. These are metaphors. There is no real house. It is an idea. It is a concept. It is your imagination grasping onto this mystery of the divine, that there is security for you, but you must speak life over yourself. That you are secure, that you are guided, that you are blessed, that you are abundant, that you are healthy. And people are going to think you're crazy. And all they did was reveal to you, you can't be in my tribe. So just remember, thank you for indulging me today. I was on fire with this lesson because it has helped me. I am no longer afraid to say I'm depressed. I'm no longer afraid to say I'm not feeling my best. I have no problem saying I ain't feeling it today. It's okay not to be okay. It's just okay. And a lot of people are going through stuff and everybody has expectations of them to be okay. They're not okay. Let them go through those feelings. Let them feel it. Because if they can feel it, they can heal it. If they can heal it, they can get through it.